And today we're going to talk about comics, because we've never done that before.
No. Yeah, well, whatever.
Today's question is, should comics be more kid-friendly? That's our question for today. I'd say that these days comics are, for the most part, more adult than they used to be.
Oh, yeah.
When you say?
Yes.
The stories are very often more serious,
Mm-hmm.
and can be taken more seriously.
Mm-hmm. What?
And you just nod and smile.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, I guess
what he said.
I guess we'll go right into it then, shall we?
Yeah, I figure.
Maybe
why should we talk without a timer?
Maybe you'll come up with an opinion.
Nah. Who would want an opinion on an opinion-based show? Surely not.
You're fired.
I'm fired? Am
Yes.
I going first?
No, I'm going first.
You're going first?
It's my turn.
Oh, okay.
See, I have to pay attention to these sorts of things because you're incompetent. Okay,
He's getting slapped after the show.
and then I'll fire you again.
I've been fired before.
All right, here we go. I just don't know any other people who look like you and can be called Vince is the issue. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm going to go on the side of yes, they should. Or at least that some of them should. I think that there's always room for both. And the issue for me is that comics started off as being more kiddish, and they became popular with adults because kids were reading them when they were kids, and they grew up and kept reading them. And so the comics matured and evolved for the people who were reading them, which means that I don't understand how you can keep comics popular if kids aren't reading them. Because after a while, all of us adults that read comics aren't going to be around anymore. And who is there left to read comics if not kids? So you have to have some, have some leeway. So I think that you need some books that kids can read that don't have too many adult themes in them. It isn't that they can't be complicated story-wise, because that's how kids learn. But they need to be kid-friendly in the sense that they don't have too many adult themes, so that parents will, allow their kids to read them.
Dude, right on time.
I feel good about that. Alright, Vince, you ready?
Alright, let's give this a shot.
Ready?
Alrighty.
Go ahead.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Why? For this reason. Less censorship equals more freedom. Now, the freedom will lead you down two different paths. One, to more complex storylines. Freedom gives a chance for complexity. The other one gives a chance to produce smut. If you've ever read The Boy's Hero-gasm, you know what I'm talking about. It's smut. It's worthless. But there is a freedom that you get when you try to create something that is meant for adults. Because when you're trying to create something that is kid-friendly, they will get trapped in this idea that they have to create something that is easily understood. If you've seen Yu-Gi-Oh!, the TV series, you know what I'm talking about there as well. Now, that's not to say that kids wouldn't get it, and Cap here makes an excellent point when he says that that's how kids learn, but when we try to make things for kids, we try to dumb it down. I'm not sure exactly as to what the logic is there, but apparently kids just don't get it, so that's the trap. I think we should make things for adults so that kids can learn by immersing themselves into the adult world. So you can have adult themes like say Spawn or Preacher, but you don't have to have those type of themes in everything, and not everything has to have profanity or nudity or things of the sort.
Apparently I never started the timer, so I think that's about a minute.
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, when is that thing gonna...
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know how that happened, but...
That's alright. I said most of what I wanted to say, and then I started repeating myself.
Good. Well, you can say some more now.
Alrighty.
You ready?
Yeah.
Alright, here comes 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Wow, that was interesting, Vince. I liked what you said about the Yu-Gi-Oh angle. Because you're right. You can get into the trap of making. It's funny you said smut about something too adult, and I wouldn't call it Yu-Gi-Oh. Smut, but just pointless. You know what I mean? Like I always thought that when we were growing up about like Pokemon and stuff like that, where it might be fun video games, but not especially, poignant story-wise, right?
Oh yeah. And that's another debate for another time.
Sure, absolutely. But I think that's in there, right?
Oh yeah. See. The thing about smut is that there's so much of it that can be produced. And Garth Ennis is one of my favorite writers, and, God forbid that he stopped writing. But I recently read a story called Dicks. Not kidding. It's about two guys
you told me about that.
That are trying to become private eyes, I suppose, and they really have nothing to do with the private eye world. They're just a couple of guys who are dicks.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting, and it's lewd.
Right. And so it would be easy for me to look at that and say, well, look, that's a point in my favor. You know what I mean? We should be making more kid-friendly things so that kind of stuff doesn't happen. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying don't make adult things. I'm saying make things that are accessible to kids that are still interesting for adults. And I think that's possible, and I think it happens. I just think that it needs to continue to happen.
You know what I think what we really need in comics?
Mm-hmm.
I think we need a cohesive, across-the-board rating system.
Well, I mean, we do have the Comic Code Authority. And I find myself thinking, the way it ought to be. I'm not sure this is the case right now, but it seems like to me the way it ought to be is that the comic, if a book has the seal on it, then it ought to be kid accessible. And by kid accessible, I just mean it doesn't have a lot of adult themes in it, and that a parent shouldn't be afraid to pick it up and give it to their kid.
Yeah, they're not going to learn a naughty word or start using it for other purposes.
And I don't think that's about censorship necessarily. I think that things should be labeled so we know what they are.
Mm-hmm. Marvel has a ratings code right now, which I find interesting.
Is it good?
It's like a child, teen, adults.
It's kind of like video games do.
So
interesting. Yeah. Because see, the thing is, I think the video game rating system has been a good thing. For the most part, I really do. Because, I mean, you can't sell mature rated games to minors, and so, it would be easy for some people who make video games to get annoyed about that. But the thing is, they're still the ones that sell the best. The most popular games are still mature rated games, which means that by labeling them, we have not messed up sales. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing for comics either. And it's just so that parents know what they're getting their kids into. But we need to make sure that there's enough stuff on both sides. Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
The sad thing is when I go into my local comic store, Astro Kitty in Lawrence, Kansas.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
They have a general selection of comics that are organized by publisher, and then they have this kitty rack.
Oh.
And what's interesting is that some of the stuff that is delegated that are spread out throughout the other publishers is appropriate for children. Like, I would say that Ultimate Spider-Man, even though it has some death and destruction in it,
that doesn't make it not
for
kid friendly. Yeah, I mean, for me, I would just want to make sure that my kids didn't have access to too much like sexual material or the kind of violence that would keep them up at night. Mm-hmm.
So, I think a ratings code is so I think we agree.
We about to agree to some extent. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you don't want all comics to be too kiddie because you can't read them, and we like to read comic books, and we want them to be something we can take seriously.
And also something to stack on top of that, as Ebert said, well, I'm not going to quote him, but paraphrase, Dark Knight and Watchmen are bringing superheroes out of this childhood genre. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think I may have said this on the podcast at some point. When I was getting out of high school, somebody said, "What do you want to do with your life, Vince?" And I said, "I think I'd like to write comic books." And this person said to me,
that, yeah.
she said to me, "I think you'd be a great children's book writer," and that irritated me. But that's just this mindset that I think we need to get away from, and letting comics be for adults allows us to do that.
Yeah, well, and let me say this real fast too. I mean, you've got, I'm not saying this is necessarily a good thing, but you've got like the Iron Man movie was pretty adult. I mean, kids of a certain age can certainly watch it. But then I think Marvel felt the need to compensate for that by making this pretty kiddie Iron Man TV show.
Yeah.
Armored Adventures, I think, is what it was called.
Something like
Iron Man Armored Adventures, I think, is what it was called. And it was like this high school version of Iron Man or something. It was really abysmal. I just don't think you have to go that far. I think you can meet it halfway. So anyway, what do you think? Should we have some comics that are more kid friendly, or should all of it be that way? Should comics go to a point where they're just for adults? What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. Also, leave us a comment if you have an idea for another topic we might debate about in the future. Check us out at geekvolution.com and check out our podcast also. And we'll see you next time on Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince.
Thanks for watching.